Welcome to Secure Management Faculties, where your mind is key before you unlock what it's seen. Secure Agent Dreyfuse, this is still the holding period. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just get straight into those channel defaults. Secure Guns tab, correction. Sell Your Guns tab down below. Find a link if you have any additional firearms for sport or for self-protection that you don't want. You send straight through that link, fill out the paperwork, follow the prompts and procedures. After that, securemanagementfaculties.com. Hit my website, establish contact if you need to contact me. And also the Secure Management Faculties cash type below if you want to do support. The rule of thumb is send for a reason if you want to send any type of currency of support. All right, so good times right now as far as moving that track ahead. Today we're going to be talking about staining of your core. And staining of your core is specifically used with the word core intentionally, but then we're going to be subbing that out with staining of your heart, because core is what is necessary to give the description of what I'm targeting as far as how it needs to be conductively be perceived. But we also will be understanding that the core in this conversation will be referred to as heart. Nothing as far as what I've said in the past about center core criticals. Essentially, that is a different type of a perceptual focus point. But we're going to be talking about core in this point as far as heart. And so what I mean by heart is, and core, is that you must understand that the heart in this conversation is going to be speaking in terms of the staining as far as what that heart is constructively, neurologically, right? And think neurologically in conjunction with the brain itself, and specifically not targeting the brain's chemical functions, but targeting the brain as far as your neurological existence and what you've built up to be identified with yourself, that's usually located up there with your thoughts and things of this nature. So now that we got that prep work out the way, let's get straight into what we need to consider and what we need to understand about what it means to stain the heart, and what the staining of the heart or staining of the core means when it's in an infatuated intimacy in relation to the brain work and that neurological perception and network of yourself. Let's jump into the concept of what it means to go through a self-defense situation. Thank goodness, because this is that bread and butter. And let's talk about the staining effect of that core, in which it reflects to that neurological perception and egotistical build that you have, that you identify with yourself with in the top of your cranium. Now, first off, let's begin to speak about, let's say you were robbed in a dark alley. Let's use that conventional setting. And the event was very immenseful, right? It doesn't necessarily have to come with the biggest physical bruising, but the intent and the possibility and potential of that physical bruising was there, and you were in the definitely in the midst of chaos, of the most grueling effects of the downpouring atrocities that society and just simple areas can commit towards you. And so you will have the adrenaline effect that will be perspirating through your whole entire self and being, physically speaking. And as you're going through this adrenaline effect, you will have a very chaotic experience of suppression, right? And you might even feel okay. People have different responses for that. Some people more honest up front. And so after the adrenaline effect has went down, right, the case is this is where the stain is, right? And here's the thing: the stain is not about getting your hand cut, getting your ego bruised or shamed. It's about what is actually left over in that staining of that core of the experience that you went through. That technically every experience is traumatic, but let's just say it was traumatic. With that said, in the self-defense situation, this is not an example that you got away from the experience and had the preparatory physical actions and the preparatory uh, mental actions to be able to prepare for this. Let's say you took it all full with no protection. Now, now this is post situational clearing of your heart core, or your core itself in conjunction with your egotistical neurological network, if you will, altogether. What is it that you are going to have to do? And you're going to have to forgive me because I'm going to withhold core criticals, again, not casting pearls before swine. But what are you going to do during that moment after that specific event has stained your heart, stained your core? Right, heart is much more dedicated to I would consider a general population as a large, because it talks from a perspective of humbleness and caring. But core is literally, what are you going to do to maintain, or should I say, what are you going to do to patrol check that core that was through that situation? Men typically usually cover up, suppress, and they usually have the tendency to pride over staining of their core centers, or heart, if you will. And women are usually outwardly express it, and then after they vent long enough and express something long enough, they usually are fine after that hearty experience. But that does not mean that the staining of that situation was not cleared or properly taken care of. This is key here, by your responsibility. Doesn't matter who fault it was, doesn't matter what person or what thing it came from, your responsibility. Now, I want to get target two parts of this, and that's going to be the male concept of their pride holdover, and then we're going to be talking about the female concept and her venting expression, and then we're just going to put this to a close. So, uh, at the end of the day, or at the end of this, understand that if you are a male entering into this perspective after a situation, it doesn't matter if you're with the filled up with the adrenaline effect, or a female filled up with the adrenaline effect. After that, where does your core stand in the experience? Get rid of the suppressing or guarding emotions that are there by the byproduct of being defense mechanisms within yourself, and actually ask yourself, what was it during those hearts that created the permanent stain, right? Especially if it digs towards certain things that you've had egotistically in place that you didn't allow, or you assumed that would not happen in context to you. So in this self-defense situation, let's say the assailant or the person caught you, or the subject caught you with a right hook that was clean. And you were on the block, and you knew that that right hook that you threw was the best right hook, that everybody knew was the right hook that should have been thrown. But then you found out this guy out of nowhere came out of the trench of woodwork and threw this right hook, and it was better than yours. And so the pride comes in, is that you make all the excuses to cover up this specific event that happened in a self-defense situation that had no context to sport combat and nothing like that. And you completely said, well, he got lucky with that hook. Context is that left a stain. And instead of taking care of that specific responsibility of being completely honest in the concept of that, you decided to run and deviate yourself away from it. And then you covered it up with pride. Now, you may get away with it in this circumstantial situation, but I guarantee you it will come up. And this is specifically in from context of training into real life. So I say, onto you 100%, you are going to need to make sure that you are honest about that specific event and the specific staining. And even if the drilling effect is over, right, and you don't see or perceive anything else, that is perfectly fine. But don't go out of your way to make such pride declarations and issues that cover up such neurological stains that come to your core, that's going to prohibit you down the line. Now let's jump into the female. The concept of the female stain, she's actually the most honest in this context. I'll be admitting of that, because 100% the female actually explodes her emotion out in contextual situations, whether it's with herself in secret, right? You got different builds and all that, or amongst her kin, or amongst the group of people that she socializes with. She actually, on a regular in society, gets to express her emotions in a context that is acceptable or unacceptable, to the point where she can just simply distribute them. Now, the fact of the matter is, her problem would be the fact that she doesn't problem solve with those emotions. Those emotions are only acting as a cup of water that gets filled up and poured out continuously over again. And so with that said, is even though you traumatically went through an experience and you expressed your emotions, you didn't necessarily express your emotions in the context where they problem solve, or problem solvely, if you will, can correct the neurological damage to your socialized ego in context to the fact that that traumatic event happened to you. So where the male needs to simply be honest and not ignore the concentrated problem, you simply just need to be honest and make a more concentrated focus on the problem. That's simply all that is. So let's conclude. The point is, neurological staining of your egotistical self Matter of fact, in this conversation, we're going to call it egotistical network. The build of you, the staining of you through your heart situation, or in my preference, the core situation of a situation. When you're going through a traumatic experience in the context of self-defense or anything else, think of marriage, think of a personal betrayal, if you will, family members and things of this, or whatever social situation you go through, understand that there is a capsulation of what it means to be involved into what is the staining of you. And don't be mistaken. If you are suppressant long enough, you can be carrying stains on your core all the way back from your childhood that you've really just pretty much sewn over. And now you cannot identify the source, and you walk around with this staining, not only prohibiting you, but the ones are around you. All right, secure management faculties, where your mind is key before you unlock what is seen. Secure Agent Dreyfus. It's good to get moving. It's good to get the prime product of this secure management faculties atmosphere where it needs to be. And also, I want to say that the holding period is still on, but still moving within that holding period. Let's make these moves. Let's make this channel right. And let's make this product the way it needs to be. Secure management faculties, again, where your mind is key before you unlock what is seen. Secure Agent Dreyfus. Until the next progression.